and welcome into On the Go, or it could be Reflection. Let me ask you a question. In your lifetime, there's big events that happen. Do you remember when JFK was shot? You might say, yeah, I remember exactly where I was. Or when the man put his foot on the moon for the first time? Yep, I remember that. And perhaps 9/11. That's the most recent thing that's really indelible in our minds, and you could have been there as a witness. Well, today, we've got a man that's a witness to something that was very, very important to society. This is David Barranco. Many of you know him. If you've ever been to Chappy's Deli, you're the mainstay, David.
Well, we got a lot of mainstays there.
Well, I know you do. I know you do. But this is the guy that you may say him with a rag cleaning off the table. because
I know it best.
You know that best with what you do. But it's very interesting because David and I do a lot of things together. After Pope Francis passed away, in the Catholic Church, they have a thing called a conclave to bring in a new pope. And it's a very big deal. And so one day, David's sitting there next to me, and David looks at me and says, I'm going to Rome for the conclave. I said, what? And he said, yeah. He said, I'm buying a one-way ticket because I'm going to get there. I don't know how long it's going to be before I come back. But that was a very historic thing. And today, David's going to be here to kind of give us a little bit of the complexion of the whole deal.
Sure, it was a wild thing. Something in the back of my head, I always thought, man, that would be nice to be too. But it was when the white smoke happened, and I think the whole world kind of knew there was white smoke, but you could feel the ground shaking. I think people were jumping up and down, and the cheering that was going on, and people started hugging, and it was an overwhelming response, crying and tears, a lot of, and then the bells started ringing, and the energy picked up more. People rushing in when they heard the bells from businesses closing and coming in. It's, as you know, it's a big event, like you said, one of those things that you don't forget, and it's not just the Catholic world, but it's the
whole world. Yeah,
the whole world is because the Pope is. It's kind of that moral leader keeps us all tuned.
He's an international figure.
He is.
So we saw when Pope Francis died, the throngs of people that were there for a funeral, and you just figured out there's a little casket up there. All these people here for that one man in that casket.
That's right.
And now it's the next step, bringing in a new pope. Yes. So were you actually in St. Peter's Square when the white smoke came out?
Yes, I got there early enough. We made the black smoke on the first day.
Okay.
And there was
two black smokes before the white.
That's right. And then a black smoke the day he was chosen as pope, and it was in the morning about noon Rome time. And then in the afternoon, we were kind of lulled into thinking this white smoke was supposed to happen, but it didn't. So everybody's attention was off, and then all of a sudden the white smoke. But you had to kind of camp out because to get a good spot, because there was like 100, 150. I've heard all kind of 1,000 people there. That heard a lot. But when you get there, you want to go to the bathroom before you get there.
Oh, definitely. You're not going anywhere.
Not drink or eat. And some of the stands were 5-6 hours that we were there at a time. But it was so worth it. And like I said, the eruption that happened, and then when you knew that we had a pope, and then he comes out from the curtain, and they announce Habemus Papam, we have a pope, and everybody goes crazy, me too, cheering again, and then he comes out, and his first words is "Peace be with you all," and then he gives us gave the world his blessing, his apostolic blessing, and it was overwhelming. I mean, it is a moment that I will never forget. More exciting than I can pick some football games where the great endings, and it's that it pales in comparison.
So basically, you're there with probably maybe 100,000 people, and then all of a sudden the smoke comes up, the bells ring, and now there could be as many as 200,000 people there.
That's right.
Because it then swells, because everybody wants to see the moment when the Pope comes out.
It happens, and they do rush in, and you could tell and feel the crowds. We had a little gap between us, and people, all of a sudden, people nudged into that gap to get to see what was happening. And then the band, the
Yes.
Pontiff's band, the papal band started playing, and then the Swiss Guard started marching, and it was a
Quite a
party
ceremony.
atmosphere.
Quite a ceremony.
It was.
So when he first comes out, how quickly do you realize who he really is? Which one was chosen?
Yeah, that's a
Did you have an interpreter with you?
that's the disadvantage to being there if you don't
you have no
speak
idea.
Italian
Yeah.
and you don't speak Spanish like he did. We had no idea. As a matter
Who
of
he
fact,
was.
no
Yeah.
idea. And you had that at back watching it on TV. But actually, my son was texting me during that. And,
Oh, okay.
And he said, "American Pope," and I said, "Who is that?" And I still didn't know who it was.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, he's done a lot, but he's an
Yes.
unknown.
Yes.
He's probably one of the best persons for the job because of all the experience that he's had
Yes,
from the time he was
so
ordained
good,
a priest.
So good. Another thing, one of the first things he did, at Chappy's we have a saying, serve with love.
Serve with love, right.
Pick up your magnets there if you need to. One of his first statements that day was, to love is to serve. So we're
Yes.
claiming him as Chappy Deli Pope.
Yes, that's a good. You need to put pictures up inside.
That's right.
Inside there. So
Get him holding a magnet if we could.
absolutely. Well, David, thank you for coming by and sharing that. I know it was
Thank
just a
you
very
for
important
asking.
thing. Like I say, he bought a one-way ticket, and my wife kept saying, "When's he coming back?" I said, "Well, you'll buy one to come back when it's all done, because he doesn't know when he's coming back." And just remember this: no matter what faith you are, remember that God is ultimately in charge. And we'll be right back right after this.